Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another super exciting, super special extended astrology forecast. And this one is for January 17th all the way through to January 30th of 2022. So the entire waning phase of the lunar cycle, beginning with the full moon in Cancer, which I am super excited for because it is a beautiful, harmonious, tranquil, dreamy energy in the midst of a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety provoking energy. And so it's kind of like a little gift, a little reprieve from some of the other astrology that we're going to be dealing with around that time period. We're going to have Uranus stationing to go direct on the 18th, the day after this full moon, and it's stationing in a square with Mercury retrograde and Saturn, which are forming a conjunction. We're going to be worried, right? There's going to be a lot of mental stress and mental strain that is going to be occurring around that time. It's going to be very hard to piece things together and to figure out what's what, right? This is kind of like a frazzled energy. It's an energy where we have a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different ideas, but it feels like they're not really going anywhere, or there are blockages to actually moving forward with those ideas. It's going to feel like we have an increased like mental strain or mental pressure due to the information that's coming in around this time period. But the good news is that this full moon is in the sign of Cancer. It's one of the most intuitive placements for the moon. It's in an opposition to the sun in a conjunction with Pluto, which that's not necessarily the good news per se, but that Pluto conjunction to the sun in opposition is going to make it so we're going to be able to be very, very discerning, but we have to utilize our feelings and our emotions and our intuitive and extrasensory capabilities in order to navigate. This is further demonstrated by the fact that we have a trine from Neptune to the full moon. I love this. This is a compassionate energy. This is a magical energy. And this is an energy that can kind of provoke us into deep states of meditation, deep states of understanding, deep states of creativity that we wouldn't otherwise have access to. And so while our brains are on overdrive because of all of this Saturnian, Mercurial, Uranian energy that's kind of pressurized, we also have an outlet. If we take a step back, if we view things in a non-linear, non-logical fashion, if we allow our gut instincts, if we allow our intuition, if we allow our just inner knowing to take hold and to guide us, this could be a magical time. This is also like a culmination point, of course, because it is the full moon. So it's a culmination of a lot of what we set in motion, literally right at the start of the new year on January 2nd with the new moon in the sign of Capricorn. And so we're going to look at what we changed and modified and initiated and worked on since that time period. It was a Capricorn moon, right? We had to put in some effort, some work. But what we've created since that time period, we'll be able to see how it's going to flourish, right? In what ways it's going to grow. It might not look like what we logically thought it was going to look like, but I think we're actually going to start to see some results taking hold from maybe some of our New Year's resolutions, some of the things that we had planned, or some of the goals that we really set in motion at the start of this year. So I love that. The other thing that's going on is that, of course, the lunar nodes are shifting into the sign of Taurus and Scorpio. We'll have the North Node in Taurus, the South Node in Scorpio. This is a huge deal. This is a big karmic shift in the energy, and this is going to be lasting for the next 18 months, and it's going to guide the eclipse cycles, these major power points of transformation over the next 18 months. And so this is something that we're going to have an entire separate video devoted to, an 18-month forecast that you'll be getting next weekend. But we will touch on this in the general forecast at the beginning of this video today, because it is a big energy and it's a part of these next 2 weeks. It's a big part of these next 2 weeks. We're kind of leaving this space. This is like the grand finale. We have just a couple of days here to wrap up the karmic lessons that we've been learning through the polarization, through that opposition between the south node in the sign of Sagittarius and the north node in the sign of Gemini, which has to do with information versus belief, ideals. There's so much that we'll get into with that. But before we get into it, I do want to just mention, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Heather Eland. I am a professional astrologer and an astrology teacher. I specialize in helping students who are struggling to put all of the bits and pieces together to give interpretations, and I help them to learn how to give really solid, really accurate, meaningful astrology readings with confidence. And so if you're interested in astrology, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I do a new forecast or tutorial every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And so you don't want to miss that. And the way that I structure these videos, these forecast videos, is I always start with a 5 to 10 minute general forecast. Please don't skip this, because this is going to provide a context that's really important for the more specialized, the more individualized forecast we'll get into for all 12 signs. Speaking of which, when we do get into the forecast for all 12 signs, make sure you listen to your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign to get a more holistic overview of the energy for the 2 weeks ahead. Your rising sign will be the most predominant energy, your sun sign will be secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this energy will be a little bit more internalized and subjective. Finally, at the end of each video, I do a preview of the next week's forecast. So this one will be the 2 weeks beginning with the new moon in the sign of Aquarius. And so stick around until the end if you're interested in that. So let's get back into the kind of general forecast and the general energy. This new moon, we'll start there because we were already kind of starting there. So this new moon is kind of going to allow us to take a step out of our, it's almost like we're in our heads too much, and we're able to sort of step outside of that and view things from, like I mentioned before, a non-linear perspective. We're going to be able to understand things through these extrasensory perceptions, through our feelings, through our intuition, through the ways that we navigate through life that don't involve heavy mental activity. Our emotions can take hold and also kind of guide us, right? And this is also a really great time to do any sort of deep emotional healing or emotional work of any kind, or also just to express your emotions in a way that maybe you've been needing to for quite some time. This is going to be a period where a lot of people will be emoting, but not in like a negative sense where people are being like overly dramatic and being just completely ruled by their emotions and not, in a way that's like destabilizing and not productive, like not adaptive. This is actually going to be us like taking our emotions and taking them into consideration and putting them out there as an aspect of what we're creating here in our lives right now. And so, our feelings about what's happening, that's going to become much more important during this time around, especially the 2 days before, 2 days after the full moon. And it's going to be kind of our guiding light, because again, like I mentioned before, Uranus is stationing. It's stationing in square with Saturn and Mercury. We're going to be feeling really frazzled. And I actually did a full 3-week extended forecast for the Mercury retrograde in Aquarius and Capricorn. And so there'll be a little bubble up here with the link, but you can find that over on my YouTube channel if you haven't already watched it, because we go really in detail about that kind of pressurized, tense, it's like a discombobulated energy. It's like there's so much going on in our mind space and so much information coming in that like our brains can completely just shut down and not know what to do with it. And that's a lot of what we'll be dealing with. And if you try to deal with everything that you're thinking, everything that's going on all at once, well, I mean, you're just going to be super burnt out, super anxious, super frazzled. This is a very anxious energy. This configuration is actually one that I see very commonly in natal charts of people who suffer from anxiety disorders, or just people who tend to run anxious or who are more prone to burnout. And so kind of taking that and translating it to the grand scheme of things, this is being placed somewhere in everyone's chart. And so everybody's going to be more prone to anxiety and burnout and just being extra frazzled and having too much mental energy and not knowing how to actually utilize it appropriately. That Saturn energy can normally be a little bit more grounding, but the Uranian side of things, because Uranus is so strong in the skies, it's stationing, it's more powerful, that's going to take hold. And that Saturn conjunction to Mercury, you guys, that brings up a lot of fear. That is one of the biggest energies for fear. Fear of making a mistake, fear of being wrong about something, fear of speaking your mind and being ridiculed, fear of not making the right choice or not being smart enough or good enough. That's going to come up for a lot of people, especially because there's going to be so much change and so much shift going on around this time. And again, so much information. It's like information overload. What do I do with this? And so this full moon is a huge blessing because that Plutonian energy is so precise and so discerning. It gives you a lot of internal stamina and like psychic momentum, psychological momentum, where you can push through, you can create whatever you want to create right now. You can make things happen, but it has to come from that intuitive, emotional, creative space. It has to come from that that space of just knowing that this is what you truly desire and what you need to do. And if you can tap into it, which this full moon will make that much easier to do, then you'll know exactly what direction to take. You'll be able to cut through a lot of the chaos that's going on right now. So I love that energy. The other thing we need to talk about before we get into the all signs forecast, of course, is the shift in the lunar nodes. Big news, massive, huge. I actually did a video with Raphael from Radiant Reality Tarot, my favorite tarot reader, where we talked about this actually for the eclipse that happened, the full moon lunar eclipse that happened in Taurus. I believe that was back in November. And so there'll be a little bubble up here for that too. And I'm going to, again, do an extended 18-month forecast for you guys for next week. I'll be back in my regular setup, make it, all clean and polished for you guys, because this is a big one. It's a long-lasting forecast that I'll be referring back to, and hopefully you'll be referring back to for the next year and a half. So that will be there, and we'll get it in there for all 12 signs. But I just want to mention a couple of things that are going to be kind of shifting and that are important to make note of for that shift of the lunar nodes, because this is changing our path karmically. This is changing our direction in a lot of ways. This is causing us to move into something that we have never explored before, that we have never even tried or maybe even thought about in this lifetime or in any of our previous experiences. And it's causing us to also have to break away from old cycles and old karma and cut cords real hard. The South Node in Scorpio, you guys, Scorpio is very black and white. It's either into something or it is not. And when it's not, it's not. It's like a major purge done, right? And so we have this time period here where we're going to be cutting a lot out of our lives, and we're going to be exposing and removing, because usually when the South Node transits a certain sign, those themes that are associated with that sign are what is going to be kind of unraveling and being exposed, and also what we're going to start as a collective and individually kind of moving away from, right? And so this is going to Scorpio rules toxicity, right? It's like a major purge. And so one of the things I can definitely see happening, and this is again more general, we'll get into more specifics next week, but one of the things that I can see happening here is like a major exposure of all things that are toxic, physically, mentally, psychologically, all of it, in our society and in our personal lives, and an exposure and an unraveling of that. If you hold on to something that is being unraveled and being exposed during a South Node transit, your whole life just seems like it's going to like fall apart, because you're ending that cycle. You're ending those attachments during this time. And the stronger you hold on, the worse things get. And so this is going to be like it could literally be like physical detoxes too. Like you could be like, all right, I have these addictions, which can be a very Scorpio thing. I have these obsessions, these compulsions that I feel like I need to do. And I'm realizing that these fixations are unhealthy. And, the more that you hold on to it, the more that you fixate on it, especially now, the worse things are going to be for you. So it's like when these things come up, you have to let them go. So it's a purge. This is also like, it's a time of creating balance too. So it's not just about like, oh, the south node's doing this separately from the north node. They're on an axis. And so you have the south node is showing you basically what you've already mastered, what you're moving away from, but also some of the good stuff that you'll be taking with you from your past experiences and lessons. And so that'll be part of it too, for sure. And the things that you'll be taking with you to deliver and put out there in the world or to use in the world selflessly. I love it, right? That's one of the best things about that south node, but it's on an axis, right? It's not just about doing that and then the north node is being developed and grown and all that like separately. And so these are both fixed signs, you guys. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. And so fixed water signs, right? Think about fixed energy. It's about holding on to something. Water is about emotion. And Scorpio is also about not just emotion, but like psychic attachments to things. And so we have this stubborn energy, this stubborn fixed energy that's about reviewing and looking at our psychological and emotional attachments to things. On the opposite end, we have the north node in the sign of Taurus, which is a fixed earth sign, which is about our attachments very literally to physical life, to the physical comforts of the world, to physical things, like material things. And so we'll be looking at that, and it could very literally be a balance. Like maybe you have some psychological and emotional attachments to food or something like that, right? That's a very Taurus thing, or to money, or maybe there's greed involved. This is going to be a big one for exposing greed, by the way, collectively, individually. I mean, that's already a thing that's been coming up for probably since decades and decades before I was even born, because that's just the world we live in. But it's going to be like more in our faces. And so kind of the final thing I want to mention about the North Node in Taurus before we move on is that the North Node, where it moves, it shows us where collectively we're going to have this sort of massive growth or expansion of something, almost to the point where it's like overkill and it's insatiable. At the beginning, it seems good, and by the end, it's too much. So think about what we just had with the North Node in the sign of Gemini. That began just after the lockdown started. It happened in May, and it's been going on until now. Gemini rules information and communication. Like, we were and still are bombarded with so much information about everything that's going on all the time. Like, we are not built to know about everything that's happening everywhere in the world with every single person and all of our friends and family also at all times. Like, it's like insanity. And so it's kind of like information overload, and and too much reliance on a lot of these sort of mercurial and like Gemini institutions. And so we had this overdoing it, right? And so at first it's like, oh, this is okay. And then it's like, oh, this is too much. And then it's like, psh, this is like excessive. So it brings this insatiable need to develop that area of our charts. And for Taurus, it's going to be, for a lot of people that need to develop something physical, I would say, and what I've kind of like talked about in my webinar for the Navigating 2021 in the Cosmic community was an increase in materialism for sure, but also an increase in the need for certainty during very uncertain times. Material wise, we are entering into a time of volatility with it's already been with the supply chain and actual physical objects, but I would say in the financial markets, in the financial realm, a lot is going to be shaken up this year, and I'm not the only one predicting that. And that part of that is because the North Node will come into a conjunction with Uranus and Taurus, and it's going to be uncertain times, like physically, in that regard, and people are going to be craving and just wanting like insatiable need for certainty, and also an insatiable need to change things so that way they can get that certainty and that stability back, but it's not going to necessarily work that way. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time We'll get into that bigger forecast next time around. And I'm going to get into the forecast for all 12 signs for you guys. But before we do, I just wanted to make a couple of quick announcements. So first and foremost, my Cosmic Academy of Astrology is about to open its doors for new enrollment in February. I'm so excited for this, you guys. We worked so hard to create this massive year-long program last year. And as we were creating it, we were also perfecting it. And it is upgraded. It's better than ever. All the first year kinks are worked out, and I'm so excited to teach some new students. If you are somebody who is struggling to take all this stuff that you're learning all over the place from all these different resources, webinars, YouTube videos, books to actually do something with it, like how do I take this and actually like give a reading or even make a simple interpretation for the planets in the signs and houses, or aspects especially is a big one. And I'm going to have a free training on that soon too. And so if you're somebody who wants to actually use astrology to help yourself, to help your friends, to help your family, to even create a business, this course is for you. I'm going to take you all the way from being kind of discombobulated to giving meaningful, accurate astrology readings with confidence. And I can say that with confidence because we have already taught so many students, and so many of them are already out there giving professional readings and doing an amazing job and getting great feedback and helping people. So get on the wait list for that down in the description below so you can be notified when that is happening. And yeah, and even if you don't want to do that, I have a free Astrology 101 PDF guide. If you're just getting started and you want to pick apart your chart a little bit better, you want to understand what I'm talking about here, all the language, all of the signs, all of the planets, all of the houses, all of the aspects, that is in the PDF download. It's absolutely free. It's my Astrology 101 PDF reference guide. The link is down in the description below for that too. That is my gift to you. I love when people download this because you'll understand what I'm doing here and the tutorials and forecasts that I do on my channel way better. And it answers a lot of the questions that you guys always have down in the comment section. So it saves me some work too. All right, so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, you guys, beginning, of course, with Aries. Okay, so for Aries and Aries rising, and I'm going to be focusing primarily on the energy of the full moon. I'm doing that because, again, we did the Saturn, Uranus, Mercury, all that in that last video for the Mercury retrograde. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already done so. And again, we're doing the nodes separately too, because these are all big things happening this month. Big things. They need their own videos. Okay, so for Aries and Aries rising, the full moon's happening in your 4th house. And so the full moon, as I mentioned before, this is showing you where you're getting a bit of reprieve and where some good energy is being infused into your life. There could be interpersonal chaos. There could be financial chaos. There could be a lot of tension going on in your social circle, or, you know, just with your money management right now or something along those lines. There's changes coming. So you have a lot of tension going on in one area. But this full moon is going to make your home, your family, your property, your place of living a true sanctuary. This is where you're going to find really good energy, and also leaning on your family as a source of support emotionally, or even like as a source of maybe helping you sort things out, you know, intuitively. That's going to be a huge blessing, and that's going to help you out quite a bit with everything else that's going on right now. So I love this energy for spending time at home. I love this energy for connecting with your family. This could also be where some sort of home-related project comes to fruition, comes full circle, and you're able to reap the benefits and the rewards. This is a great energy for dreams, for maybe like trance states and things like that. This is a really great energy to go on a retreat, to spend as much time as humanly possible away from the world, in contemplation, in solitude, in seclusion. And this is happening on January 17th. And so kind of just thinking about maybe the weekend before, or even taking that Monday off and just decompressing and just be doing some inner exploration, some inner work. That's going to be a huge relief. And that's actually going to give you a really important insight about what needs to be transformed in relationship to what's been exposed for you when it comes to your career and your public reputation, because there's something that's been brought to light that we talked about in the forecast for the Venus retrograde and the forecast for the Mercury retrograde. This is going to help you to gain a sense of understanding, and it's going to help you to very clearly navigate your career life as well. For Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus, this full moon is happening in your third house. And this is really nice, especially if you're a Taurus sun, moon, or rising, anywhere from 25 to 30 degrees. You're going to be feeling this super positively. This is a great energy, especially for communication, relationships. This is a powerful, positive energy for relationships and for connecting with other people, either one-on-one in your community or in your social circle. This would be a great time to go to some sort of creative or meditative sort of social group or gathering or class or something like that, like going to like a full moon, I don't know, drumming circle or something like that, where you have like-minded people who are interested in spirituality, or even just going to like a painting class or something more creative. You could have actually a lot of breakthrough from that. It sounds like it's, oh, like I'm just going to go and do something, nice and fluffy as a hobby, but you'll be surprised at how much this affects you and helps you to tap back into your intuition so you can navigate a lot of the chaos that's going on, especially in your career, especially in your personal life. You yourself might be a little anxious right now. This is going to help you. So connect with people. Relationships are so powerful and so important right now. And you could have a breakthrough or an insight or a aha moment where you discover some truth, you discover some hidden desire, you discover some information that changes your perspective on your entire reality. So definitely don't hide out for this one. For Gemini and for Gemini rising. So for Gemini, this energy is happening in your second house of money, finances, resources. This could be a time where an important purchase comes up for you. And, even though Venus is in retrograde, Mercury's in retrograde, it could be, fruitful. This is also a really important time where you could reap the benefits and the rewards of a creative pursuit or a project or something that you approach maybe quite differently when it comes to your career, your job, your work that you're putting out there in the world. It's kind of like, I did this differently. I approached it more intuitively, more compassionately, less logically, less in that like linear fashion, and more just from the heart, from the soul. And you could actually reap some financial benefits from that as well. Or it could be that's what's coming up for you right now. And you're like, I don't know what to do with this project. Do that, right? Approach it in a way that's less logical, more compassionate, more creative, more in flow. Allow your soul, what you desire kind of on a deep level to be your guiding light for that. And there could also be a lot of healing around fear, anxiety, power struggles, or issues, especially on an emotional and a psychological level related to your finances and financial security that could come through right now. It could happen and manifest physically, but it could also manifest like literally just psychologically, like something happens and all of a sudden your perspective shifts about these topics and everything opens up and changes for you. So this is a good week for creative work. A good time period in general for creative work. This is a good time period for, financial adjustments and healing, but they have to come, again, not logically, but more intuitively. Like, this feels like the right thing to do. I feel good about this. I feel good about this. Logically, it doesn't make sense, but I feel good about this, and I know it's what needs to happen. And for Geminis in general, you're not having as much chaos as some of the other signs because Saturn and Mercury are trining your ascendant. So this should actually be a pretty decent period, especially at the start of these 2 weeks when we have this full moon. For Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancer, this full moon is happening in your sign, so the spotlight is on you. It could literally be on you. So when you have the full moon in your sign, especially if you are a Cancer sun, moon, or rising, anywhere from 25 to 30 degrees, this could be literally you're in the spotlight. Like, you are getting recognized for something. You are being, front and center. This could be a lot of action coming your way, a lot of I wouldn't say communication necessarily, but it could be that there's a need for you to step up and support somebody that you care about, or it could be that all of a sudden you receive an influx of support, or specifically support from somebody who is really has your back, who's deeply loyal, who is just a really solid partner or a really solid friend. And that's really what you're kind of looking for right now, because Pluto has been activated in your 7th house. You're about deep, intimate connections right now. And this is actually going to expose very easily for you which connections are worth holding on to, which connections do run deep, who has your back, and who is there to support you, not just physically, not just when it's convenient for them, but like emotionally and, psychologically, and on all levels, who is there for you no matter what. And so this is really positive and really powerful. This is a great time for connecting with other people, especially one-on-one. This is a great time for one-on-one therapy or one-on-one healing that you give or that you receive. And this is also a really great time, I would say, to go on some sort of trip for spiritual, creative, healing purposes, or just to like get away and have a break. I think that could be really wonderful for you as well. Great little reprieve here on an interpersonal level, though. So I would say use this for connecting with other people, especially one-on-one. For Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leo, this energy is happening in your 12th house. This is there's been a lot of busyness, I would say, because of all the Capricorn energy that's gone through over the past couple of months. And we still have Pluto activated on and off by Mercury, which is coming up soon. Watch the Mercury retrograde forecast if you haven't done that. And Venus, which is coming up again. So watch the Venus retrograde forecast if you haven't done that. These things are ongoing. But yeah, this is like, there's been a lot of busyness, and now is just a time for you to rest and take a break. Major breakthroughs can come even in your work, especially in your work and in your relationships, because these are sources of stress for you right now. So you have these areas that are sources of stress. In order for you to break out of that and to actually navigate this, you have to do so intuitively, not in a logical linear fashion. And the best way for you to kind of figure things out and sort things through is to take a step back. So this is where you need to go into hiding, go into solitude, go into seclusion, go into retreat. Pay very close attention to what comes up for you right now in dreams and in meditation. This is a great time for journaling. And this could also be something that you've been working on behind the scenes that's really coming to culmination or fruition right now. And that could be a really powerful event in your life, but other people might not see it, right? Because it's something that you've been doing that's been hidden behind closed doors. And this is also just a powerful time for healing. I would say that that's the case for most people with this, but for you in particular, psychological, physical, and emotional healing are all favored at this time. So if there is an illness or a chronic issue or something going on with your physical body that you've been having trouble kind of pinning down and healing from, taking that step back from it and approaching it more intuitively, that's probably going to provide the solutions that you desire, way more so especially than just approaching it in like a logical fashion. So that's what's going on for Leo. For Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgo, this energy is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, social networks, and people that you surround yourself with by choice. This is a very social full moon for Virgos. And so if you can get yourself out there, spend time with your friends, even if you can't do it in person, do a little Zoom call or whatever people are doing these days. But make sure that you don't isolate yourself at this full moon. If you're able to connect with people, you're going to get so much support and so much compassion. You're going to be able to not just receive that love and compassion and support that you need in order to get through the more strenuous energies right now, especially on that day-to-day basis. There's a lot of stress going on in your day-to-day work life, your day-to-day life in general. A lot of extra pressure and activity going on for a lot of Virgos. with that said, your place of relaxation, your place of calm is going to be with your friends. It's going to be with your significant other. It's going to be with your community. It's going to be in communication. And that's going to help you to receive a lot of the support that and the insight, right, that you need in order to navigate. And it's going to help you to provide a lot of support and help for other people just by being there and being you. This would be a great time to have a party or a celebration or a little get together. It would go very well, very smoothly. And it's a great time to do something that you're really passionate about, but to do it with a group and share it with a group. So these are all good things for Virgo. For Libra and for Libra rising. So for Libra, this energy is happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career and public reputation. For Libras, there could be a little bit of tension going on here where something comes to a culmination point with a work-related project or a career goal of some kind. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's out there in the open and you're doing it. And that could be a little bit of pressure, especially if you're a Libra sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 25 to 30 degrees. However, it's almost as if you've been working on something more creative or doing something that is more intuitively guided, and all of a sudden it reaches its culmination and it actually works. And the pressure could be that it's actually gaining some momentum, gaining some success, gaining some traction, and you have to figure out, all right, how do I actually deal with this? Who do I need to bring on board for this? Like that type of thing. This is a great time for all creative, intuitive, spiritual projects involving like your work or your health, right? This is a good time to take a spiritual or a nonlinear approach to healing as well. And if there's interpersonal issues or power struggles or challenges going on in your home or in your family life, work is going to be your reprieve. So this is a good time for you to get in flow with a good routine, or just allow your intuition to guide you for the next steps with whatever these big projects are that you have planned for your work or for your public reputation or involving your legacy that you leave behind after work. This could also be you getting recognized by somebody who's in a position of authority for something that you've done, especially something that you've done to help others in some way. And so that's what's going on for Libra. For Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. So for Scorpio, this energy is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of education, travel. It's the house of your beliefs, right? The beliefs that you hold on to around your values, your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, that type of thing that frame your reality. And so this could be a few different things here. There could be a culmination point of something that you've learned or that you've taught that comes out into the open and get some recognition in some way or gain some traction. This could be you having a major epiphany or a major aha moment after allowing your intuition to sort of guide you and shift your perspective on something, where all of a sudden you realize your worldview has changed. And it's not from a place of logic, it's from a place of just inner knowing and understanding. This is a really great time for you to pursue learning about something or relearning about something with all the retrogrades that you're deeply passionate about, something that is a hobby that you just love, that's fun for you. And there's a lot of tension going on maybe in your home environment, in your relationships, in your work, on a personal level, all of it, because you're a fixed sign and it's being hit really hard right now. But learning, growing, exploring, educating yourself, going on an adventure, communicating, connecting with your community even, and just reconnecting with your passions and the things that bring you joy, that's going to be your way out, and that's going to be the best source of inspiration and guidance to help you get through the tension. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. So for Sagittarius, this full moon is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of debt, joint finances, investments, other people's money, inheritance, taxes, insurance, all of those physical things. It's also the house of power struggles, control issues, occult sciences and studies, magic. It's the house of a lot of stuff, past traumas, past fears, anxieties, all that. And so this full moon is a very healing full moon across a wide variety of topics for you. So if you are somebody who is dealing with financial struggles, this could bring you or illuminate an outlet or an out, a way for you to get out of those struggles, a way for you to resolve what's been going on. And it could come to you very intuitively. It's going to come to you in a way that's maybe a more creative sort of solution, but it's not going to be like the normal logical approach that you would take. Same thing goes for healing. This is a big healing moon. So if you are somebody who has like past trauma or somebody who suffers from compulsions or addictions of some kind, like this is a really important full moon for understanding the emotional components that are driving these triggers. And this is also a time where you can heal through a lot of past trauma with your ancestral lineage, with your family karma, your family lineage, your early childhood upbringing. A lot of things can come to light, and intuitively you'll just know exactly what this means for you and how to kind of work through it and resolve it. But this is, again, on a very physical, mundane level. This could be you healing through some sort of financial issue. It comes to that light, it's illuminated, and you very precisely know exactly what to do, but you're not, that precision isn't coming from here. It's coming from here. It's coming from, someplace else, maybe someplace else out here. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, this full moon's happening in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships. And so this is a really social full moon for Capricorns as well. Lean on your relationships right now. Be there for a friend if somebody needs you. It goes both ways with this full moon, but your relationships are highlighted, and your need to spend more time focusing on your interpersonal connections, that's being highlighted as well. There could be a new connection that comes in, and it could be something that helps guide you on a new path or helps you to intuitively solve an issue that's been plaguing you, maybe financially. That could be a source of strain for you right now. And really, like, your best, if you are experiencing like financial strain or fears or issues around your finances right now, the best way for you to work through that is to focus a little less on that and to focus a little bit more on your connections with other people. Other people in your life might be able to support you or find solutions that you might not otherwise have access to. And so that's a big part of this energy as well. But this is a great full moon for you to get out there and socialize within your community. If you have a good spiritual community or creative community that you're a part of, like in your actual very literal like neighborhood, this would be a great time to connect. You might make a deeper one-on-one connection. This is a great time for you to have a romantic outing with your spouse or significant other. This is a great time for you to connect really deeply and intimately with a close friend or a relative or anything like that. So a very social full moon, I would say don't hide away. That's going to cause more stress. You're going to want to interact for this one. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So for Aquarius, this full moon's happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. This is a time where you could get a little busier, but the busyness isn't going to feel stressful when it comes to your day-to-day work, your day-to-day, routine activities. The busyness is actually going to help kind of like offset some of the chaos that's going on. It's almost like you have a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure going on a personal level, and maybe even with your living situation or your family situation right now. And you'll be able to kind of step away from that by focusing on your habits and routines, or maybe even the need to develop better habits and routines, or focusing especially on your work and the work that you do that creates profit. That's going to help kind of pull you away from that. And that's actually going to help you to find solutions to a lot of these issues, pulling yourself out of it and just doing work kind of in flow and in harmony, and just really getting your emotions and your feelings and your emotions behind the things that you're doing, the actions that you're taking every single day. That's going to help pull you out of a lot of this chaos. And so you'll find solutions that'll come to you through unexpected means just by doing that. And so I love this energy. This is also a time where physical healing could be illuminated. So it's kind of like you've had some sort of like health issue maybe, or there's something that's been going on with your body that you didn't realize. All of a sudden it's like in your face, it's out in the open, and very intuitively you can figure out what you need to modify, maybe with your diet or supplementation or your exercise routines, to shift that energy very gently toward healing, right? And so this is a really great energy for that for Aquarius as well. All right, and then for Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for Pisces, this full moon is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of fun and joy and children too. So there could be something that is illuminated or comes out into the open that you have to pay attention to involving your children. Maybe all of a sudden your children are front and center, and you realize you need to support them a little bit more, or maybe they become a means of support. Maybe if your children are older or grown up, and all of a sudden you realize that you have this support system in your children, and maybe you were looking at it very differently in the past because you're their parents. And so that could be something that comes up for you as well. And that could be a huge shift in the energy, and it could be actually experienced quite positively. But this is, a time where you're going to want to maybe be a little bit more nurturing toward your children. You might want to play, do things that are more imaginative, more creative, and that could actually get you out of a rut or out of your head, especially when it comes to anything that you're really feeling a lot of pressure or tension around. Pisces, it's not so bad. With the Uranus station and the square to Saturn and Mercury in your 12th house, it's more like maybe like a mental overstimulation or an underlying sort of subconscious anxiety that you can't put your finger on. It's not as like overt as some of the other signs, so it's not quite so frazzling. So this is actually just a really nice energy for you overall this week, because you're not getting the worst of the difficult energy. And this moon, especially if you're a Pisces sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 25 to 30 degrees, it's making a really beautiful trine to your ascendant sun or moon. And the sun and Pluto are making a really nice sextile. You're going to feel like your psychic abilities are like amped up times 1,000 right now. So if you're somebody who does psychic readings, great, you're going to be doing really great work. If you're somebody who doesn't, this is a really great time to develop those skills, because they're going to be heightened and you're going to be able to pick up on them and understand them and work with them a lot more easily than what you would normally would be able to. And for those of you who are in creative fields, or just who do things that are really creative for your own joy and self-expression, it's going to be very prolific right now. So take advantage of that, especially at the start of this period around the new moon on the 17th of January. And so that is what's going on for Pisces. And that is my forecast for all 12 signs. So next week we're going to be talking about, or next 2 weeks from now, because next week we're going to be talking about the shift of the nodes into Taurus and Scorpio, which we touched on already at the start of this video in the general forecast. For those who skipped over it, you can go back and listen. But the 2 weeks from now, the new moon in Aquarius on January 31st, that's going to be there's just so many activations at the start of this year of the Saturn-Uranus square. We had the final pass of it in December, and it's kind of just being like reignited over and over and over again. And this is another one of those energies that's reigniting it, because the new moon is in a very, very close conjunction with Saturn, still squaring Uranus. This is going to be almost like a reset, though. It's kind of like we've been through this intense period of toiling away and struggling and making all these adjustments and having all these unexpected hurdles, and then having to shift this way and having to shift that way. And it's just been a lot, and a lot of pressure, especially for like those of you who have a lot of fixed sign energy. This is like a reset where it's like, all right, we're done with this, right? We're resetting, we're starting fresh. We're going to start doing this now in a new way. The most intense phase of this is over, and now it's time for something new. And so we'll talk about that a lot more, obviously in 2 weeks when we do this forecast. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and make sure you share this with your friends if you feel like this information can be helpful to them over these next couple of weeks. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.